General Hospital spoilers reveal that a quiet storm is building beneath the surface of Port Charles, a storm forged not from violence or vengeance, but from something far more intimate and dangerous. Emotional erosion. At the center of this emerging catastrophe are two people once bound by affection and now reconnected through loss, Willow Tate and Harrison Chase. But this time, their connection is not rooted in hope or healing. Instead, it is fueled by desperation, fueled by the ghosts they never managed to exorcise, and by the deep psychological need to feel seen, desired, and understood in a world that has, piece by piece, dismantled everything they once held dear. This is no ordinary reunion. This is one of the most psychologically charged emotional recalibrations General Hospital has delivered in recent years, a new adjustment that doesn't just reshape their individual arcs, but threatens to disrupt the emotional equilibrium of nearly every character around them. The obsession brewing between Willow and Chase is not merely romantic nostalgia. It's an emotional compulsion, an unspoken magnetism that drags them toward each other as their lives unravel in parallel directions. Where Willow is plagued by guilt, longing, and maternal grief, Chase is sinking into the helplessness of unfulfilled dreams, emotional isolation, and the silent devastation of infertility. What brings them back together is not love in its purest sense. It's survival. It's psychological codependency cloaked in sentimentality. Willow sees in Chase the gentleness she's been denied, a past version of herself she is desperate to reclaim before it slips away forever. And Chase sees in Willow a form of untainted intimacy, something he believes was stolen from him when fate, and Michael, intervened. Both of them are spinning, emotionally and mentally, and instead of grounding one another, they may be dragging each other further into an abyss of obsession disguised as reconnection. The timing of this development couldn't be more volatile. Willow's bond with Michael is frayed and dangerously close to breaking. Her desperation to see her children has cast her in an increasingly erratic light, pleading, bargaining, and spiraling emotionally in ways that concern even her most loyal supporters. Michael, who once loved her with unwavering loyalty, now sees her as unstable, unreliable, and perhaps even unfit to be part of their children's lives. And Chase, wounded by Brooke Lynn's hesitation to move forward with adoption and devastated by his own infertility diagnosis, feels abandoned, emasculated, and forgotten. In this shared vulnerability, Willow and Chase find each other again. But the emotional terrain they now occupy is far from stable. It's cracked with resentment, jealousy, and suppressed longing. Their conversations are tinged with nostalgia, but laced with bitterness. Each look exchanged carries the weight of what could have been, what should have been, and what they now feel entitled to reclaim. It's not just romantic, it's personal, it's primal. And if they give in, even momentarily, they will set off a chain reaction that will scorch every relationship around them. Imagine the fallout. Brooke Lynn, already insecure and emotionally raw from the strain in her marriage, would be shattered by Chase's betrayal. She would not go quietly. Her fury would be volcanic, exposing truths, secrets, and vulnerabilities in both Chase and Willow that could dismantle them permanently. Michael, wounded and betrayed, would harden. Any residual affection for Willow would collapse under the weight of rage and protective instinct. His battle for custody would intensify, and his willingness to destroy Willow's credibility would reach a fever pitch. Carly would undoubtedly take sides. So would Sonny. And in the shadows of it all, Drew, abandoned, disillusioned, and perhaps still harboring a twisted form of love for Willow, could emerge as a wild card no one anticipates. But perhaps most chilling is the emotional deterioration that could occur within Willow and Chase themselves. What happens when two people grasp at each other not out of love, but out of fear? What happens when obsession masquerades as romance, when trauma bonds are confused for emotional truth? Chase may believe he's saving Willow, but in reality, he may be enabling her descent. Willow may see Chase as a lifeline, but in truth, she may be pulling him down into the very instability she's desperate to escape. This new dynamic is a slow burn toward implosion, a psychological entanglement that spirals deeper each time they meet. Their past may be the spark, but the present is the fuel. Chase's need to protect and be needed. Willow's need to feel wanted and relevant. Together, these needs create an emotional feedback loop that neither of them can escape. And the most dangerous part? They don't want to escape. Because in the chaos, in the dysfunction, in the mutual unraveling, they feel alive. They feel powerful. They feel something. And General Hospital thrives in this space. This storyline doesn't just have the potential to shake up the romantic dynamics of the show, it has the power to redefine the moral landscape of Port Charles. It asks hard questions. What happens when love becomes possession? When protection becomes control? When empathy becomes exploitation? Chase and Willow were once a story about redemption. Now, they're a cautionary tale in the making. If the writers fully commit to this arc, viewers may be in for some of the most emotionally raw, psychologically complex material GH has produced in years. We could see Chase and Willow pushed to the brink, torn between the intoxicating lure of emotional fusion and the horrifying realization that what they're building is a lie. Their relationship could become a battleground of denial, manipulation, and quiet destruction. And yet, for all the darkness, it's compelling. This storyline taps into the show's greatest strengths. Flawed characters, moral ambiguity, and the inescapable pull of the past. It reinvigorates two characters who had once drifted into emotional stagnation and injects them with dangerous vitality. And in doing so, it creates ripple effects that will upend the lives of everyone they touch. Because if Chase and Willow fall back into each other's arms, they won't just fall, they'll burn. And from those ashes, General Hospital will find something it desperately needs: fire. Willow is no longer the same woman Port Charles once knew. The serene, composed figure who once exuded calm resolve now walks a tightrope between longing and desperation, clutching at the remnants of a life that's crumbled far too quickly. Her bond with Michael has fractured beyond easy repair, and her once bright future with Drew lies in ruins, tarnished by emotional manipulation and her own questionable decisions. But amid the wreckage, one thing burns brighter than anything else: her desire to reclaim her role as a mother to Wiley and Amelia. It is this maternal instinct, fierce, raw, and relentless, that now drives Willow to seek out a new ally, one who can see past the chaos and into the heart of who she once was. That ally, unexpectedly, is Harrison Chase. Their reunion is not sudden, but it is quietly explosive. The years haven't erased their bond, instead, they've buried it beneath layers of regret, resentment, and heartbreak. And now, with Willow desperate to prove she deserves access to her children and Chase struggling to find a place for himself in a life that has denied him fatherhood, something dangerous begins to take root. Not love. Not forgiveness. But need. A mutual, escalating emotional dependency that neither is prepared to recognize, let alone resist. Willow's legal path to reclaiming custody is tenuous at best. Michael, embittered by betrayal and bolstered by powerful family allies, refuses to consider her petitions. He views her as unstable, emotionally erratic, and possibly unfit to influence the lives of their children. While Willow attempts to present herself as a changed woman, her visible desperation works against her. She is unraveling. And even she knows it. Her emotional pleas have fallen on deaf ears. But then Chase steps in, not as a lover. Not yet, but as a man with a personal wound so raw that he's primed to take on someone else's battle just to feel like he matters again. Chase's discovery of his infertility has reshaped his identity in ways he has yet to process. Where he once imagined himself as a father, now there's only silence. His dreams of adopting a child with Brooke Lynn have been put on indefinite hold, and the woman he thought he would grow old with seems more distant by the day. Brooke Lynn's hesitation to move forward with parenthood has triggered something deep inside him, a sense of inadequacy, of loss, of purposelessness. And just as that internal chasm opens wide, Willow steps back into his orbit, holding a battle he suddenly feels compelled to fight. This isn't just an act of kindness. It's an emotional recalibration, one of the most dangerous shifts Port Charles has seen in recent memory. Chase, aching for fatherhood, sees in Willow's children a surrogate fulfillment of that dream. And Willow, craving validation and support, sees in Chase a figure who will protect her unconditionally. This is not about mutual healing, it is about mutual distraction. A way for two broken people to avoid confronting their individual pain by investing entirely in each other's cause. But the emotional currency they exchange is volatile, unstable at its core. As Chase begins advocating for Willow, publicly defending her character, supporting her petitions for visitation, and standing up to Michael, lines begin to blur. His presence becomes more than a symbol of support, it becomes a lifeline. Willow starts to rely on him for emotional grounding, for daily assurance, for strength. And in return, Chase finds himself drawn deeper into her world, willingly shouldering her burdens as if they were his own. Soon, they're sharing more than strategy. They're sharing grief. Longing. Quiet moments filled with words unspoken but understood. And it's in those spaces, between courtroom appearances and whispered conversations, that their dynamic shifts from alliance to obsession. The consequences are immediate and far-reaching. Michael, already suspicious of Willow's behavior, views Chase's involvement as a betrayal. The fact that someone he once considered a friend is now openly aiding Willow's legal battle infuriates him. Carly, fiercely protective of her family, sees the partnership as a calculated manipulation, an attempt by Willow to win back her children through emotional leverage. And Brooke Lynn, watching from the sidelines, sees the man she loves slipping away, devoting himself to another woman's children, to another woman's emotional needs. Brooke Lynn's pain won't stay silent for long. The more she sees Chase investing himself in Willow, the more she begins to question her place in his life. What began as emotional support soon manifests as physical closeness, hand touches, lingering eye contact, shared silences that mean too much. And Brooke Lynn, feeling abandoned and replaceable, may finally reach her breaking point. She will be left asking herself whether Chase ever stopped loving Willow, or if she was simply a placeholder in a story that never ended. And the saddest part? Chase doesn't even realize how far he's gone. He believes he's helping. He believes he's stepping in where others have turned their backs. But each step he takes in Willow's direction moves him further away from reason, and closer to emotional collapse. He begins showing up unannounced, checking in constantly, inserting himself into conversations that don't concern him. Not because he's controlling, but because he's afraid. Afraid that if he lets go of Willow's pain, he will have nothing left to hold. Willow, in turn, begins to orchestrate moments, subtly and without malice, that keep Chase close. A request for coffee. A tearful conversation. A late-night phone call. She isn't manipulating him in the traditional sense, she is simply surviving the only way she knows how. But her survival comes at a cost. And that cost may be Chase's ability to distinguish love from duty, empathy from entanglement. And therein lies the most dangerous adjustment of all. This isn't just an emotional crisis, it's a psychological shift. A slow, creeping erosion of boundaries that turns protectors into pawns, allies into enablers, and affection into fixation. If left unchecked, Chase and Willow could become the center of a new storm in Port Charles, one that redefines every relationship around them. Their alliance, born of shared pain, could evolve into a romantic reconnection so emotionally charged, so morally blurred, that it threatens to unravel everything the show has carefully built over the past year. If they fall into each other, it won't be sweet. It will be destructive. Their reunion wouldn't symbolize healing, it would signal surrender. Surrender to obsession. To delusion. To the belief that they can find purpose in one another without addressing the wreckage that surrounds them. And yet, there is no denying how powerful this story could be. It's messy. It's painful. It's human. It's exactly the kind of layered, emotionally complex narrative that General Hospital excels at when firing on all cylinders. Chase and Willow are no longer just two broken hearts, they are mirrors to each other's damage, reflections of everything they can't fix in themselves. And in clinging to each other, they may light a fire that consumes everything else. Because when love is used to fill a void, and when protection becomes obsession, the adjustment isn't just emotional, it's catastrophic. A new explosion is building in Port Charles, one that no one saw coming, and yet, it threatens to disrupt everything. In a twist both shocking and deeply emotional, Willow may soon find herself welcoming another child into her life, an unexpected development that could radically shift her fragile journey toward healing. But this isn't just about motherhood. It's about rebirth. About rewriting her future in the ashes of her past. And at the center of this emerging storm is her rekindled connection with Chase, now no longer just a source of emotional comfort, but the spark of something much deeper, more powerful, and more dangerous than anyone anticipated. Willow, for so long broken by grief, betrayal, and isolation, is beginning to feel something unfamiliar, hope. Not the kind built on fantasy or denial, but the fragile, trembling kind that comes from finding new purpose in someone who truly sees her. Her relationship with Chase, born of shared scars and emotional trust, has slowly evolved into something tender, something real. And now, with whispers of new life on the horizon, that bond is deepening into something profound. A new child, whether through pregnancy, surrogacy, or adoption, represents more than just a fresh start, it is the embodiment of the love she never believed she'd feel again. But this newfound joy comes with a cost. Because the moment Willow begins to reclaim control over her life, the past refuses to let go. Drew, once her protector, then her manipulator, has descended into a darkness no one saw coming. His love, once tender, has curdled into possession. His grief, once sympathetic, has become an obsession. And now, as he watches Willow rise from the wreckage he helped create, he begins to spiral. To Drew, this new child is not a symbol of Willow's healing, it's a threat. A threat to the control he once held over her heart, her mind, and her choices. The adjustment he begins to make is not one of acceptance, but domination. Drew's descent is subtle at first, passive-aggressive comments, veiled threats, reappearances at places he doesn't belong. But soon, the mask drops. What he wants is not reconciliation. It is reassertion. He wants Willow back, or he wants her destroyed. The idea that she could move on with Chase, build a family, find happiness without him, without his influence, becomes intolerable. And what follows is one of the most dangerous shifts GH has seen in months. The transformation of Drew Cain from wounded hero to calculating antagonist. Chase, ever noble, may initially underestimate the threat. He sees Drew's actions as desperation, not danger. But as Drew becomes more erratic, tracking Willow, manipulating those around her, subtly sabotaging her stability, Chase begins to realize that this is not just a jealous ex. This is a man unraveling. And Chase, whose greatest strength is his loyalty, may soon find himself in a battle not just for Willow's future, but for her safety. Meanwhile, Willow begins to feel the pressure closing in. Her moments of joy with Chase and the new child are slowly clouded by unease, as Drew's presence begins to infect every corner of her life. The phone calls she doesn't remember making. The appointments that get mysteriously cancelled. The documents that go missing. These aren't accidents, they're messages. Drew is reminding her that he still sees her, still controls the pieces. And it's in this moment that Willow must make a choice, continue living in fear, or take back her life once and for all. Her love for Chase becomes her anchor. But even this love is being tested. Stretched to its limits by the weight of external threats and internal uncertainty. Willow fears that her past with Drew has tainted her forever. That she can never fully offer Chase a future without dragging in shadows. But Chase, ever steady, refuses to abandon her. In their quiet moments, he reassures her, not with grand gestures, but with presence. With unwavering support. And with a love that does not demand perfection, only honesty. Yet as the walls close in, the question becomes, will that be enough? Because Drew is no longer acting alone. Whether through blackmail, alliances, or psychological warfare, he's beginning to build a strategy. One that doesn't just threaten Willow's custody of Wiley and Amelia, but her right to this new child, this new chapter, this fragile joy that's just beginning to take shape. His aim isn't to win her back. It's to convince the world that she was never stable to begin with. And if he can't have her, he will dismantle every piece of happiness she tries to build. This is no longer about love. It's about control. And the adjustment Drew is undergoing, a descent into calculated madness, is redefining his role in the canvas of General Hospital. He is no longer a man grieving lost love. He is a force determined to rewrite Willow's future in his image, or ensure she has no future at all. As this story unfolds, the stakes rise dramatically. Willow and Chase are no longer just lovers, they are warriors, fighting not only for a child, but for the right to choose their lives. Is about to learn that the most dangerous battles are not fought with fists or guns, but with love twisted into obsession and control dressed as care. A child. A new beginning. A love rediscovered. These are the elements of a miracle. But in Port Charles, miracles often come with a price. And this time, the price may be everything.